This video shows how to create the graphs for horizontal and vertical lines. The first thing you want to remember is that if you think about the equations that you've seen so far, most of the equations we've been working with have had both an x and a y in them. So as an example, we maybe have had something like 2x plus 5y equals 10, or maybe x equals 2y or something like that. And when you have both an x and a y in the equation, depending on what the numbers in the equation are, you get lines that either go uphill or maybe they're sort of flat going downhill. But the idea is that they're going at some sort of an angle as you move left to right. And that's when you have both x's and y's. Well, it turns out that if you have an equation that just involves one of the variables, your line no longer goes up or down at some sort of angle. It's either perfectly flat, horizontal, or straight up and down, vertical. So let's take a look at these. These involve just a y. We have an equation y equals 2 and a different equation y equals 3. And let's see which type of line we get here. So it says to make a table. So if I try to make a table for this first one, it's a little bit strange because I don't have an x in there. So if I chose a number for x, where would I put it? The main thing you want to understand is when it says y equals 2, it means that no matter what x is, y always has to be 2. So if I felt like putting in x is 1, y would have to be 2. If I feel like putting in x is negative 1, y would have to be 2. If I feel like putting in x is 6, y has to be 2. So no matter what x is, y is always 2. So then if I come over here and I plot these points on my graph, you'll see that when you plot them, 2, 4, 6, y is 2, when you plot them, the dots all line up in a horizontal line. So this is a horizontal line with the equation y equals 2. And as you move from point to point on this line, you'll see that the y coordinate is not changing. And similarly down here for the equation y equals negative 3, x can be anything as long as y is negative 3. You can put as many points in your table as you want. You really only need 2 of them. So let's say I make x equals 0, 1, and 2. And again, you can make x anything. So if I plot those points, 0, negative 3, 1, negative 3, and 2, negative 3, again, those all line up horizontally, and so you get a line where every point has a y coordinate of negative 3. You can probably guess what's going to happen now that I only have an x value, but let's just do the same thing here. If I make a table, this time around, when it says x equals negative 1, it means that no matter what y is, x always has to be negative 1. So if I pick something like 0 and 2 and 4, again, I can pick anything I want for y, and then I plot these points. Negative 1, 0 is here on the x-axis, negative 1, 2, and negative 1, 4. This time around, since the x-coordinate isn't changing, I'm getting a vertical line. So when it says x equals a number, you get a vertical line. And the same thing here with x equals 3. No matter what y is, x has to be 3. Just pick some easy values for y like 0 and 1. And if I plot those are over here at an x value of 3, and I get a vertical line. It's a little wiggly on my tablet here, but the idea is it's vertical. So if it says x equals, you get a vertical line. If it says y equals, you get a horizontal line. So let's take a look at this question. Sketch the horizontal line through 5, 1, and then what's the equation of the line? Well, if I just quickly make a sketch here, x and y-axis, and I plot the point 5 in the x direction, 1 in the y direction. This says sketch the horizontal line, so that's this line right here. Well, what's the equation of that line? Well, to figure out what the equation of the line is, you have to ask yourself which coordinate is not changing on that line. This is the point 5, 1. If I came over here to these points, all of these points, even though the x coordinate is changing, the y coordinate is staying 1. So if the y coordinate stays 1, the equation is y equals 1. And then it says sketch the vertical line through 5, 1. So I'll draw that vertical line in. What's the equation of that line? Well, for the vertical line, you have to look at the points that are on that vertical line and ask yourself which coordinate is staying the same. Well, in each of these cases, the x coordinate is staying the same. So since the x coordinate is staying the same, this equation is x equals 5. One more, find the equation. What's the equation of the line passing through -3, 0 and -3, 2? So let me sketch that. And then the second question there is what's the slope? So -3, 0 is right here. -3, 2 is 2 steps above that. And so I see I get a vertical line. And again, if I look at the points, the coordinate that's not changing is the x coordinate. So the equation of this line is x equals -3. Now, if you've studied slope, you know that once you have a line and a couple of points on that line, you can always find the slope, which is the rise over the run. So slope is rise over run. And if I look at this point here as my starting point, and I'm going to walk up to this point here, to get from the first point to the second point, my rise is 2 units. That's how far up and down I go. The run is how far I have to go left, right. And in this case, I don't go anything to the left or right. So when you have a 0 in the denominator, the slope is undefined. Last one here, -4, 1 and 3, 1. What's the equation and what's the slope? So -4, 1 is over here in quadrant 2. 3, 1 is over here in quadrant 1. If I connect those dots, I get a horizontal line. And the equation of the horizontal line, if I look up here at the coordinates and I see which coordinate was staying the same, it's the y coordinate that's staying the same. So this line is y equals 1. And then what's the slope? Well, if I think of these 2 points here, and I want to move between the first point and the second point, the slope is the rise over the run. Well, to get from the first point to the point over here at 3, 1, I don't have to go up or down at all. So the rise is 0. And the run in this case is, I think, 7 units. And 0 divided by 7 is 0. So a horizontal line has a slope of 0.